think some of these kids are going into the most dangerous areas for their tutoring. I mean, I would never want my child to go into some of these areas that they're placing them in.
Yeah, one of my questions was if there's a way that we could get out ahead to see where the tutoring is taking place. It's like the monitoring happens, which is good, but it happens after the tutoring has already started to take place. So if we have questions about some of these locations, is there a way to see where they're thinking about putting the kids before, they're actually being sent there?
Well, that's one of the things, and you could probably write that down. One of the federal requirements that changed in October 2008 is that the districts had to tell the parents where the locations of tutoring was. They had to have in that booklet so that, of course, which makes sense, and the parent can see where their child is being taken if there's transportation, or see where they end up having to go if they're beforehand they'll find out that it's closest to their home. But since 2006, 2007, they have not put any tutoring locations in the booklets. They have nothing in the new booklets to say. And some of these vendors are from California, out of state, out of the city. So their parent would have no idea whether that was the correct vendor. So that was a guideline. That was a federal guideline that they changed October 2008, and it said you have to put those locations. In fact, did you get did you get the complaint, a copy of the complaint that we sent to the Ohio Department of Education? Did they share that complaint with you?
When did you send it?
We sent a complaint to the Ohio Department of Education December 27th. I guess I'm gonna need to give that to you. There was a complaint, as a matter of fact, Jill and Joyce responded to it, showing, because the Ohio Department of Education showed me their responses, and I didn't understand the responses. But yeah, they did put the location. My complaint was that they did put the locations in the book, which was required. One of the complaints was that they had put all the providers in the booklet for the number of them were missing.
I know I haven't seen the complaint, but if you can send it to me, but I'm gonna check to see if maybe they copied me on the response. Because I know there was a response that was due, I want to say January 31st.
Yeah, it was due a little bit later, I think, than January 31st. I think it was February 18th.
Okay, that doesn't ring a bell.
That they had to respond. And right now they've got the complaint was you've got, and I know when it's all said and done, if the U.S. Department of Education gets involved, we're going to have to pay that money back. They placed 16 schools that were already there in academic emergency and have them acting as SES providers, as well as among city schools. They have them on the list. They interpreted, and Ohio Department of Education also, they interpreted the waiver wrong. The U.S. Department of Education gives you a waiver. And the waiver allows schools and districts that are in academic emergency, the waiver allows them to act as SES providers even though they're in academic emergency. But you have to file an intent to apply. And you had to file that, I think it was by May 2010. Columbus City Schools didn't file the intent to apply, and neither did the 16 schools. I saw the email where Jill Dandemiller says to the person at Ohio Department of Education, because they did do the intent to apply for 2009, 2010. So she's writing her and she's saying, I'm right now working on my intent to apply. When do I have to have it in or something like that? And she writes her back, ODE writes her back and says, oh, you don't have to do that, you have to do this. However, it's clear that you have to do the intent to apply, both the district and each individual school. And then you have to go through the approval process like every other provider, in which you ask to be approved by the Ohio Department of Education, and then they put you on a list. I was trying to tell them that none of the schools, the 16 schools, not only are they not on the ODE list, the state list, but they're not even in the SES provider booklet. So how do the parents even choose the individual schools in order to be providers? But at this time, they're not even qualified to be providers because they never applied, they never filled out the intent form. And you have 400 and something students that are being provided services by schools that are really ineligible to provide those services.
Now, I know I have this book, but can I just look through?
Is that the 2000? No, that's 2000. This is the 2010, 2011. Put there, she put these in the booklet, that list right there, but as you can see at the top, she tells you that she's going to give you the additional list after September 3rd and gives you this website. But when you go to this website, it just clicks you back to this.
As of September 3rd is the last day the providers come on board.
No, the providers have been on board. I really don't understand that at all. You know, why they would do a booklet when and her reason was, Ms. Hackett's reason for the 47 missing out of the booklet was that they didn't get their descriptions in on time, which the description is all 5 to 6 lines. It doesn't make any sense that the provider makes, you know, these providers make $1 million and something last year and fail to get it. You see how long the description is. So to me, why should they even be able to provide services if they couldn't get a description in? But you make the meeting mandatory at the beginning of the year, but you don't make it mandatory that they get a description in so that you can construct a book that a parent can choose from. And that's why I told Joyce they're just targeted. They're not allowed to choose. These parents are just targeted. The guys that were offered the money, they said when they went to get the students, the provider's name was already in there, and they would put and then after they turned back in all the parents that signed up, the provider said that they would fill in the second name, and they're not supposed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
One guy said that all three, because they were actually going into Cincinnati and other areas too, and these ministers said all three of their names were filled in when they went to the parents. So the parent never had any kind of choice. They just went to them, and the name was already there, and that was the provider.
The name as far as the tutoring agency, okay, such as I know the one that I saw where they had crossed out, I think it was Sherwood, and put in Somalian women and children. Okay.
And they believe they're doing a lot of that because they're just assigning them. In fact, it says assigning on their sheets. They're just assigning them to tutors.
Yeah, and parents, it is supposed to be parent-driven.
Parent-driven, right. I'm supposed to be able to look at that booklet. I'm supposed to be able to actually, the effective rating is not in that booklet. I'm supposed to be able to look and see what providers were effective from the previous year and determine, but it's not, the effective rating is not in that booklet. And then as you can see, it says tutoring location, please call. That to me is adding another, you have long distance numbers in there. some people don't even have phones or long distance numbers.
Yeah, here's what Cleveland, I'm assuming 216.
And then the 27 of the ones in the booklet don't even have contractual agreements with the district. So it was like, what a waste of a booklet. Half of them are from not even in the city of Columbus.
Yeah, some of these names don't look familiar, so I don't think that we entered into contracts with them.
No, you didn't enter into contracts with over half of them. So the booklet was pretty much, I think you might have maybe 15 in there that you actually entered into contract with. And you'll see a number of them are outside the city of Columbus or outside the state.
Yeah, Garnet Systems, they're in Baltimore, Maryland. That doesn't ring a bell. Here's the 1611 address for Quickway.
The one guy said that's what they were given. They were given this list in order to go after the parents. They were given this list at the back of the schools. And if any of the parents fell in those schools, they actually went out and got 300 names. And suddenly but they went out and got them over the summer. Then they found out that the applications that they used were not the right applications, because the applications, you can't use last year's applications, and the Somali group had given them last year's applications. So then they had to go back and try to get the parents to re-sign. Then after they re-signed them, they were told that the parents were going with other vendors. And by the time it was all said and done, he said they had 25. And then the Somali group said they didn't have any English-speaking tutors. So they had to find a woman who could speak English to do the tutoring. And so they got her, and they said just by the time it was all said and done, the parents got disgusted. They were down to 7, and then everyone just dropped off. And they ended up with no one out of 300, and was not paid any money. And they ended up paying the tutor themselves. And that's what I mean. You have people out there acting as SES providers who are not approved because these people are subcontracting and offering them $500 a head for the student.
Is that one of the providers that I have documentation on?
That was helping applicants in New Direction.
I know I have notes on that. Was that and I'll look, I'm sorry. Was that the one where there was the actual agreement where they had,
Yeah, helping applicants in New Directions actually had an agreement form.
Okay.
Where they said they'd give them $500 if they got over 100 students and $250 if they got under 100.
Okay, and then this person had got 300, but they used the wrong form and okay.
By the time it was all said and done. That's why I think they're switching. We had talked to the coordinator for I think To Be Natural, and they said they had put in 200 names and then only ended up with 80 or something. So somewhere along the line, they started assigning these students to particular providers, which is not what the parents sign up for. I think that's so it's almost like a bait and switch. Like you sign up for one thing and you're given something else.
These are the same group of people who are upset because they didn't get paid, for the most part. Some of them who went out and did this.
There's actually 5 groups. There's, so you're talking Somali American youth, Somali American youth, WACE, Somali women and children, Helping Africans in a New Direction, which they call HAND, To Be Natural, and Community Threads does it too. The way we found out about Community Threads was, they had done it here and they had gone to Cincinnati to do it. And then this guy's supposed to call me back where, someone from, Columbus offered him $800 per head. A minister's group offered $800 per head. So, and part of your billing, none of that billing is supposed to be incorporated, you know, for them paying anyone to recruit in those kinds of numbers, or to recruit at all. The billing of the $2,100 for each student is strictly supposed to be for the tutoring. But what they're doing is incorporating what they're going to pay those people, or supposedly to pay those people. I don't think any of them, except for maybe Omar, is the only one I know that got his money. And that was probably because he went to the elders and he filed a criminal complaint against him.
Okay. I'm sorry, he said say, that's WC hand, community threats, and, I don't know, it was.
To be natural.
Yeah, something like a hair.
To be natural by design.
I think the per student rate this year is over 2,000.
So I think it's 2,200.
And the highest that we've seen is 600.
On that, where we actually have a contract at 600. I think that's why they choose so many locations too. I think that's to kind of, it's hard to monitor that many. When I see them down there with maybe, you know, 5, 6, 7 different locations, that kind of like, to me, is an indicator that that's just to kind of throw off, because it's difficult to monitor that many locations. And I think that's why they have so many. How do you even control that many locations?
Now, I also, they had mentioned that there was some who were also offering like a laptop that they could complete. I don't know if you heard this before. They were offering like laptops or maybe other electronics.
Yes.
If,
And they were told a long time ago not to do that. You know, only if you use that as part of your instruction. Yeah. I bet those parents didn't get any laptop stuff. I bet those parents didn't get those laptops. I think they ran into a problem, and you'll find that quite a few of them have the Ohio State tax department after them. Quite a few of them. Do you know why they would not fill out W-9s?
why the
Vendors.
vendors, I can inquire as to,
Because W-9s, and this is just from us dealing with vendors, is W-9s were so that the IRS would know how much independent contractors were making, because sometimes they wouldn't report their income, so they would require us as a district to get a W-9 from the vendor, so that the vendor, they could then turn in that W-9 as well as what we paid that vendor, and then the vendor can't get away with making a certain amount of money and not reporting it to the IRS.
let me check all that, because I thought that I did see some W-9s, but that could have been for another.
Yeah, I did get some of the W-9s, but I didn't understand why they all did not, like Lincoln Park Tutoring Center. They're not registered in the state. They don't, they claim to be a nonprofit. They have no 990 form. Several of them have not filled out. Now that's a required form if you're a nonprofit. Unless you're a church, which is probably why ABC Tutoring flipped over to Total Deliverance Ministries, so that they wouldn't have to show that 990 form. But Lincoln Park Tutoring got over $1 million and filled out no evidence that they filled out any kind of tax form.
Any reporting to any.
No reporting, no W-9, no, nothing.
Yeah, that I will have to check, because I thought, I know just going through some of these, I did see W-9s, but if that's one who doesn't have one, Lincoln Park or their other name.
Well, what's his name said that they're our vendors in the district, which I never heard of that. Dennis Carney, when I asked for the W-9s, he said, to the little girl there, 'cause she sent an email, Teresa Spence. And she said that Dennis Carney said that the vendors in the district are not required to fill out W-9s. Just don't see how that's possible. You know, I just don't see how that's possible. Most public entities, colleges, you know, require those W-9s from their vendors.
Yeah, I can't speak to that without actually going back and seeing who has one and why someone would be exempt from having one. I was thinking maybe it's under Unicare because that might be the doing business as name, but
they never did put it as doing business, not on anything did they say they were doing business as Unicare. And a couple of them are really home health care. That's another concern. Are they doing a Medicaid fraud along with the educational fraud? You know, they've become very adept at what they're doing. I mean, they're quite adept. And their names are so unusual and so hard to, you know, they flip their names so much, they flip their addresses so much that.
yeah, that one I have to, you know, I can't speak on. I'll have to check and see. To me, yeah, there should be. But let me see what Mr. Carney has to say.
I thought I read that the IRS requires them. Thank you. And I could send you those emails too.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, they're all helpful, but there was that one that would really be helpful. The one from Mr. Carney.
On not being required to register in the state.
Well, thank you for meeting with me. I mean, I, you know, definitely am interested in getting all the facts that we can on this.
I appreciate it. You know, it's frustrated me for a long time. I just don't like paying my taxpayers' dollars if the students aren't going to get the services. It's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. If you're going to steal it, I don't want to do it. And I really felt that they have been, like I said, the first thing that got me was Dog when he stood up there and said, where's my money? And it's like, well, he's saying he has bad credit, and I don't know of anyone that can say I have bad credit and get another $51,000. And then I started calling on the Ohio Department of Education's website in 2005. And these vendors were in California and Texas. I'm like, why do we have these vendors? And when I called the numbers, they would be disconnected, or the person would say, we don't do any tutoring here. And that's when we began our journey on trying to find out what is going on. And it's just become a bigger and bigger market as the years go on.
Yeah, I've been kind of noticing the district payments have increased.
But only to certain vendors, and then that's what I found, that when I went through the district payments, it was for the last 3 years, the specific vendors that seemed to get the money, and then they would drop out. It was like, Dog made $169,000. What vendor would stop doing the services after making $169,000? No vendor would. They would continue to do it. Or Club C was paid $225,000, and suddenly Club Z didn't do any business with the district anymore. No one would do that. And that's when it became suspicious that they drop on, drop off, drop on, drop off, change their names, you know.
Okay, well, like I said, this will be on the Audit and Accountability Committee agenda, and what it will be, well, you know, I definitely don't have a report to present, you know, Thursday. It will be, you know, an update of what I have found out since, you know, the last time that I was involved with this program, since October. You know, we do have some falsifications of documents. We do have some I'm still not quite sure what's going on with this Taloya reader or this ACON. There's some type of imposturing, some type of forgery going on in that case. I don't know who's done the forgery. You know, I don't know if it's ACON or Taloya Reed, but whatever. So I will give them an update.
Now, how will they be, when will the vote be taken for whether they're turned over to law enforcement?
Without being able to predict the future, some of this most likely will. But
Because I'm just a little, because this is kind of like out there now, didn't want it to necessarily be out there before, but it's kind of like out there now, so I feel like these vendors are getting this opportunity to destroy things, you know, that whole 9 yards. And so for me, at least those that were terminated, that you terminated because they, as you notice, they didn't squawk a whole lot about their terminations of their money. So that just kind of like told me that what the district found them to be doing was most likely true. Like LoveWorks, the fact that, I mean, that's mail fraud. You're going to give an address that you know doesn't exist to have all your checks into it. That makes no sense. And so for me, if nothing else but those terminated vendors, you know, I would hope that they're turned over to law enforcement because the district did find them to be doing those things.
And you know, that, for that right there, because I don't want to, you know, I know what I'm thinking. I would say, yeah, some of those do definitely need to be turned over. Which ones or how soon there might be a request for us to get more information, I can't say. I mean, some of these, you know, yeah, we terminated them in 2011, but what about some of the prior, you know?
I think the fact that there's absolutely no terminations prior to March 2010 is very telling. It's like, why wouldn't we have any that's been going on? Our program's been going on since 2002, and there's absolutely no terminations. So I'll give Joyce Hackett that. I mean, she at least started the termination process, but I can't think that no vendors have been complained about prior to that, or everyone got paid prior to that, or, you know, just what happened in those other cases. So I'm glad you're looking back to see what's going on, you know, with the vendors. But they just need to be, you know, as far as I'm concerned, they just need to be responsible.
Educational Recovery Clinic had a little situation where they had to sue for their money.
Right. They did have to sue for their money. Right.
And my question is, I presented this information to the board in regards to Larry Braverman.
Mm-hmm.
He's part of the triad that reviews this. You have the audit and accountability, you have yourself, and you have Larry Braverman as the attorney. It disturbs me that you were not made privy to the fraudulent information that you are now reviewing, while Larry Braverman was fully aware of those terminations. My question is Larry Braverman going to be part of the loop as far as this information here, taking it to the Audit and Accountability Committee or to law enforcement?
As far as what goes to the Audit and Accountability Committee, I am in control of that. So as much information as I have will go to them. And I do have to work with that committee to determine, okay, yes, turn this over to law enforcement, or we want you to do some more digging on this situation. So I can't say, you know, what Mr. Braverman's involvement will be. But I am confident that the Audit and Accountability Committee is going to want to, if there's someone or some entity that needs to be, you know, taken to law enforcement, they're going to want to do that.
Well, my concern is that since he was obstructing the investigation, that you should have been privy to this information. He did not present it to you, knowing full well that you needed to know it. My concern is he needs to be put on administrative leave or some type of positioning so he's not involved in any of this procedure, because he has already shown himself to not work with you. He didn't present the information to you, and you yourself said, had you known about this fraudulent information, you would have turned it over to the prosecutor or law enforcement.
Right, and with that there, I don't have any authority to determine someone being put on administrative leave, but all the board members did, get the packet that you presented last week. And typically, they won't, at that meeting, come out and say, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. But, that's for them and the superintendent really to discuss.
Well, I don't know if you have any opportunity to make any suggestions, but if you do, I'd like for you to make that on my behalf.
Well, I appreciate your feedback.
Thank you.
I do.
The other thing is, we have all this information and documentation that we presented to you. Is there a way that we can get a confirmation?
Well, I haven't, you're facing it.
Yes, I know, but I'd like something written.
Because it's a lot of information.
Well, the
let me
point
ask,
is-
what would you
I
like?
think, just a confirmation that we submitted. You know how you gave us the confirmation letter prior? Some type of confirmation that,
I mean, this is adjunct to the complaints that we've already filed. It's a more extended information, but we first filed based on the No Child Left Behind, based on DOG, based on Carol Harper, based on what we have seen here now. We've filed those complaints, so I think it's an ongoing complaint, but I'd like to make sure that we get some kind of confirmation that we presented it to you.
Okay, I was thinking you wanted something specific for each document. I can give you something that we met and you gave me,
That'll work.
yeah.
some additional information.
That'll work.
Okay, I can get that
So
to you.
we're not equipped, am I correct? You're not equipped as an auditor's office to do a criminal investigation.
No, we're not criminal investigators.
Yeah,
And
you're not equipped to do that at all. So you would have to turn it over to law enforcement
Yeah,
because
that-
you're not equipped.
that's I mean, really, the policy that you have, that is our policy, and that's our practice that we have followed in the past. There are a couple of cases where, once we've done, some investigating, it's like, okay, this needs to be turned over to the police, and then the police will do further investigation and then turn it over to the prosecutor. But no, that is not what we do.
What about the fact that it's federal funds as opposed to, you know how you turn it over because it's
Mhm.
state funds or local funds? The fact that it's No Child Left Behind federal funds and that it could go up to such a large amount, or would it be up to the police then to pull in?
I have that question posed, and I have not got a response yet. But it is federal dollars, and the Office of Management and Budget, they do investigate their, federal fraud cases. So I'm not sure if the police will make that determination as far as, okay, this needs to go to Franklin County, this needs to go to the state, this needs to go to there. So, but I have put that question out there, so I can't answer it right now.
You have another committee in the district that deals with federal funds? I thought that's what I heard you say.
No. The Federal Office of Management and Budget, you hear OMB sometimes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right.
Okay. Does every district have one of those, or that's a state office, or?
It's a state and it's also federal.
Oh,
The state of
okay.
Ohio has it, and then it's also federal. For like the state of Ohio, the Office of Internal Audit, their reports is part of the Office of Management and Budget.
Now, how does it work with your audit that's already going on by the state? Do you have to turn all this over to the state now, or does the state wait for you to do your thing? Or how does it now work with, are you still having an exit conference on?
We're still having an exit conference, and the state at any time, can come in and conduct a, what do they call them?
Special audit?
Special, yeah, I'm gonna say special audit, I know that's not the right term, but they can come in at any time and do,
Oh, regardless of whether they give you an exit, they can then turn around and say, okay, now we're gonna do a special audit just on this SAS program.
yeah, they can, on anything that they, you know, anything that funnels from the state down to us, which this does come through Ohio Department of Education to us. So they can do that. Of course, any federal agency.
Now, you saw where Mark Michaels, the attorney for ODE, sent the email to us, and I think
Was this the one where he was, I know he mentioned he wasn't, was this in relation to LoveWorks?
no, the one with Joyce Hackett, where he says, surely if Joyce Hackett knew about this fraud and collusion, or believes that there's fraud and collusion, surely she would would have turned it over to law enforcement, and if she didn't, it should be defamation of character. Could be defamation.
I've
That was the
seen-
last
I've seen
email in
that.
my package.
Yeah, I have seen that email. I'm not sure what packet I've seen, but I did see that.
I think that was one of the ones that was in the board packet. Yeah, it was one of the ones that, but it's like, well, have they communicated? Are they part of this whole thing? Or they've been silent?
I've seen where someone from ODE has been copied on the correspondence.
Yeah, they were copied on it. So for when he gave us also an email in which he said that they received an anonymous packet of termination letters. That they had no idea that, that these terminations existed, which was kind of unusual since they were copied on the terminations.
Was that in the email packet that, okay,
That
can
one
I get a
wasn't.
copy of that one?
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll send you that. Yeah, he certainly did. He said they didn't have any idea and received it as anonymously, but his is kind of ridiculous because the attorney filed a complaint with the ODE about the terminated letters, and the person that responded to him was Mark Michaels. So then for Mark Michaels to then send an email saying, we didn't know about these, didn't make any sense.
Oh, so the attorney you're speaking of is Mr.
Fratrakis.
Fratrakis, okay.
Had filed a complaint and included the termination letters. At the same time, he sent it to Carol Perkins.
Okay.
And then he wrote back and said, oh, we can't take this complaint. That's what he sent back to the attorney. Then he sends us an email, I think in March, and said that they got these anonymous, and then gave us sent us the anonymous terminated letters with a stamp that they just received in March 1st, 2011.
And those were the letters that that I've seen as far as.
And they were copied to them.
Okay, no, if I could get a copy of
I'll get a
that
copy.
email.
Do
Okay.
you want Bob Fratrakis' complaint?
Yeah, if I can, I mean, where I'm at with it is any information that I can get will help,
I would help with whoever was involved.
yeah, that, and then also, you know, where I'm also at with it is, you know, this program has good intentions behind it. You know,
Helps so much, so many, I mean, seriously. I can afford to, at the time, I could afford to send my son to Sylvan or Huntington, but this was for parents that would ordinarily be able to afford it and to have it. And then they explained the tutoring program wrong. Nothing in federal guidelines says that they have to be tutored to the test. But to be natural, they were telling me that they were told that they can only tutor to the test, which of course eliminated any kind of child that passed the test. But this could have been done, all it was, but they were supposed to be tutored in the subjects that they're tested, and that was science and math and reading and social studies. I mean, they could be tutored in any of those subjects. That's all it said, just raise their achievement. And so the parents began to not like it because their child would be in school, but it didn't help them with their homework, but they could still have done it that way. And they convinced the parents, I mean, the SES vendors that the only thing that you could do was hand them diddles and increase their achievement by doing, but students are not going to add another hour to some 2 hours, 3 hours to the day, and all they're being handed is diddles, and it doesn't equate to what work they're receiving at school. And so it just destroyed the program. It just really did. And it was a very, very good program. Could have been, you know. But what happens is the districts can't use the money, and so they get in bed with people from the outside who then really don't do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, so any information that, you know, you have that will help, help if something is turned over to the police, so they have complete information.
Okay.
That will be helpful.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.